Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Renaissance Center chat this evening. We are so grateful that you are with us. Again, this is our monthly time where we get together and discuss relevant topics for families, individuals, and all people online that are interested in how to better their lives or how to support the lives of their loved ones. Tonight's topic is one that is unfortunately no stranger to many of us because it's domestic, intimate partner, and family violence. And some of these things have impacted our own family members and friends. And so therefore we want to make sure that as a community, we're prepared to support our friends and family that may be going through this, or if it's something that we're challenged with, that we are able to make sure that we get the proper guidance to get the help and support that we may need, or again, family, friends, or loved ones. So we want to get started this evening. Again, this is a Renaissance Center event. You can always contact the Renaissance Center if you need any support by calling us at 410-409-0025 or reaching us at the website, therenaissancecenter.org. So we're going to get straight into the discussion. Again, feel free to put questions in the chat so that we can answer some of your questions this evening. And we have two very capable guests this evening that are going to help us share and dialogue in this setting. So we're going to ask Vanilla Jackson to introduce herself, followed by Chris Moore.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vanilla Jackson. I'm a counselor at the Renaissance Center. I have a background in criminal justice and also in domestic violence, as I have been employed with the House of Ruth of Maryland. And I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Moore. I am a life coach with Making Less into More coaching and wellness, as well as an aging services professional. I've worked in various jurisdictions over the past 15 years, gotten to see a lot of unfortunate abuse, and glad to be here tonight. Thank you.
Welcome, Vanilla and Chris, and I'll just be calling you Vanilla and Chris for the rest of the evening, if you all don't mind. But again, this is a topic that affects millions across the world, and we know that during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw an increase in domestic and family violence because of the shutdown initially, and then the stress and the ongoing stress that we are still, enduring. That has kind of given families, more fuel for the fire. So they had pre-pandemic problems. Then, with the pandemic, we know that some of these things are still may have worsened. So is there a group, and I'll start with you, Vanilla, is there a group that's more prone to or at risk for domestic or intimate partner violence than any other group?
I don't think there's a special group. We're all, as human beings, we are susceptible to domestic violence. If you're in any kind of relationship with anyone, you could become a victim of domestic violence. I have seen in the last year or two our junior high and high school students have become more involved in domestic violence.
Yeah, and that I know that dating violence is really something that we don't, we do talk about it, here on the Renaissance Center chats, but it is something that is underrated because that's when it starts. The seed is planted in those early years for people to have unhealthy relationships, or they've seen it, of course, in their homes. And so they're replicating it in the community and in the school system and just wherever they find themselves. So, Chris, have you seen a different demographic? We said we're seeing the teens and preteens. What about you?
Yeah, definitely see it in older adults quite a bit. I think anybody who is potentially vulnerable has a way that they might become an abuse victim, but definitely seeing it with older adults. There's an assumption of oh, they're senile, they don't know what's going on, and everything, and I can get away with it. And it's not necessarily just someone hitting someone. It's neglect, it's abuse. I mean, it's a neglect, it's physical, it's mental abuse. All of those things kind of factor in.
Yeah. So these are like two ends of the spectrum, the preteens and teens and the older adults who are vulnerable, and both are vulnerable populations. And part of what's happening too with the older adults is financial abuse. People, and I've seen this, we've seen it on not a larger scale, but some of the public figures whose children have taken on their finances have made decisions that other family and friends haven't agreed with. And, I've seen a few articles of that. One of my favorite, Stan Lee from the Marvel comics had someone helping him that was taking advantage, allegedly taking advantage of his resources. And so these are things we don't talk about. So you think it's just happening to people like him that were wealthy, but it happens to everyday, loved ones, where persons come around when they know you get your retirement check and they want to take you to the grocery store and they buy half the food for them and take it home. So, I mean, these might sound small, and these are like real kinds of examples, but over time, if I'm taking half of your money every time I go to take you to the grocery store, that adds up, and it's taken away from our family members and friends. So it may be subtle ways that people are being abused. And that's the things that we want you all listening to be looking for, because it's not always overt. It's a lot of small ways that people are being abused. And that leads us into our perfect question. Is physical abuse the only form of family and intimate partner violence?
No, absolutely not. It can be emotional. It can be something like isolation, keeping you from your family, keeping you from your friends, not allowing you to talk to different people. You can have emotional, somebody's always putting you down, always making you feel guilty, always saying it's your fault. You make me do these things, those kinds of things. It's also harassment, where people harass you and harass your family. And if you don't do certain things, I'm going to do this and thus to you. It's threatening. It's stalking. And with social media, the telephone seems to be like the worst enemy at this point. Not letting you talk on the phone, not letting you go on social media. And if you are on social media, they're harassing the people on social media because you're talking to them. So it's just not financial. It's not just physical. It's emotional. And it's the whole isolation and intimidation. There's so much intimidation going on between you and that partner. So no, it's not just physical. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's also the manipulation factor of it, and um, the common thread of what you were saying was control. So much of this is about control and someone seeking to guide your every movement, and it can take many forms. The gaslighting, that's another thing, a form of manipulation where people are making you think that you're crazy, and it's really the problem lying within them.
It's
Yeah,
your fault.
that's
It's
true.
your
It's
fault.
your fault. Everything's
Fault.
your
It's your
fault.
fault.
Yes. And then that gaslighting, and we've heard that term and we know it's been used a lot, especially in our current cultural climate. So with that being said, it's making you think that what you believe is not real, but you are experiencing these things. You did hear them call you out of your name. You did have $20 in your purse and now you don't. You know, it's not, well, you know how your memory is, you know, sometimes, and that's the manipulation piece. So that's what we want you out there to understand, that it's, remember, it's not major overtures, it's small, little incremental things that build up to something more significant. And so that's, you know, we're looking for the big things, the fight, you know, out in public, somebody being chased down. Those things do happen, unfortunately, but also these microaggressions within a relationship are what we kind of dismiss, but over time it can take a toll on your mental health.
Yeah, I mean, think about transactional relationships, or it feeling like I'm not going to come over to see you if you don't give me money every time I come over, and everything. And it's something that seems relatively innocent, but then you think about it and you think about the cumulative effect of it, and it really is a form of manipulation that is harmful to people.
Yeah, and again, it comes with strings attached. So yeah. Who were you gonna add,
I
Vanilla?
was just going to say, in the beginning, the perpetrator, batterer, whoever you want to call them, they might be very nice to you in the beginning, and then little things start to happen. It might be just, you know, this time they're calling you out your name for the first time. You know, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm never going to do that again. But then something else happens, and maybe the next time it might be a slap. You know, but they've already been very nice to you, and you know, this is just a one-time thing that you think is going to happen, and then they say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again, but then it escalates to something else. So it's like you said, it's over time, and it's just short periods of time this thing can happen, and sometimes we miss it because you know, you start off, oh, they're jealous, they love me, they're jealous, and it's an overaction of jealousy. So these are little things that start to build up.
Yeah, I keep thinking about the too good to be true people. It's like the whirlwind romance and all, and it's too much too fast. And next thing you know, it's like a way of getting control of you and really just manipulating what you know you wanted. You wanted that attention. The attention feels good. You have somebody who's worshiping the ground you walk on, and then you go down that slippery slope, and then next thing you know, they're isolating you from family. They're taking your money. They might hit you, etc. And of course, if they hit you, they're going to blame you. It's your fault for making me angry.
Right.
Yeah, it's very tricky. We had a question from the audience about the definition for gaslighting. So thank God for our phones and Google. I did look up because I wanted the technical definition. So from the American Psychological Association, the definition is to manipulate, which is what we did say, another person into doubting their own perceptions, experiences, or understanding of events. So it's like went to the same movie, right? And we saw the same things, but you tell the person that's not what happened in the movie. You know that's not, or that's not what I said. We both had a conversation. I didn't say that. And you're like, well, I thought you did say meet you at 5:30, not at 6. No, you're just always running late, so it becomes ways to put a dig in, by dismissing the truth. And this is the gaslighting is like, that's, so it's not anything deep. I know we hear the term, it's things you've probably experienced by, from family, friends, or coworkers. So this can happen on any, or in our culture, it's become a big
Fake
thing
news.
where we can't trust some of our public figures because, now we got to double check, fact check. You have now the fact checkers. That's like probably a real job now.
Yes.
People fact checking is like before, whoever heard of that as something, but because of the gaslighting or the challenging to our perceptions of reality. So this happens a lot in domestic and family violence situations.
And one of the things is especially, go ahead, I'm sorry, especially if you have a disability, sometimes they'll use that. They'll just, oh, you forget. Or, no, that's not what happened. You probably just dreamed that. That didn't happen. We're like, yeah, it did happen.
Right.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think it also speaks to the importance of having anchors and having something that you believe in that is keeping you in reality, something that keeps you grounded and everything. Because if someone becomes your whole world, they could twist it all up and redefine your world for you. But if you have that anchor, you know your core values. If you're a believer, you're praying to the Lord and everything. All of these things help keep you grounded, and what's real versus what is being portrayed to you.
Yeah, that's good. I like that core values piece.
Yes. If you can
That's
hold on to
really
your
good.
core values, then it's easier, just less easy for the person to take you the other way, to mix up your world, because this is your core value, this is what you believe. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's really if you can stand firm with that, that helps you to combat that. You can, you'll have the strength to question the reality that the person is making you experience with the abuse or neglect. And one form of neglect, and then we'll move to the next question, is besides financial, because it could be financial withholding in relationships, but also medical neglect and abuse, where people aren't taking care of their loved ones properly, that do have some kind of disability or impairment, or not getting their prescriptions filled in a timely fashion, or just so many things that, it could happen once, where you miss the mark. But these are instances where people are habitually, missing appointments, missing medication, or people come and again steal your medication because you are vulnerable. So you are on some of these, super, maybe, and I can't think of what the drugs are called. Some of the
Opioids.
Opioids for painkillers. So right. So they may be coming by more often to raid your medicine cabinet. So that's another way people may not be stealing money or, taking your EBT card to get groceries, but they could be coming and raiding, your medicine cabinet. So that's another abuse, because then you don't have what you need. So look at it that way. When you're looking at abuse and neglect, it's a broad spectrum.
Mhm.
Let's see. Here's a question from the audience. What are some of the signs of emotional abuse? Vanilla, if you could chime in, and then Chris.
Okay, let's see. Always putting you down, always making you feel guilty about something. And as you said before, gaslighting, making you think, I'm crazy. There's something wrong with me. And you start to doubt yourself. That's one of the major things is they talk to you in a manner that makes you feel like maybe I did miss that mark. Maybe I didn't hear that right. So you continue to question yourself, making yourself feel like you're crazy. The other person is right and I'm wrong. So that's one of the ways for emotional abuse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just blaming somebody for their feelings, that's a huge one. You're not responsible for anybody else's feelings, but the abuser is going to say, well, I'm only mad because you do this to me, or I only hit you because you made me angry. And in reality, you are only responsible for your own feelings and how you respond to things.
Yeah, and again, it's real subtle, and this is where if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. This is when you use your discernment. Go with, if something you don't feel like this is really a person being true or honest or has your best interest at heart. So they could say, well, I want to pick you up from work so you don't have to catch, the subway. But is it that, or is it that if they pick you up from work every day, then they can control your whereabouts? You can't make a stop on the way home, right? Like you might want to, or you can't spend extra money. I knew we had someone calling, this was years ago, whose spouse only gave them enough money for their bus fare and lunch. This was like their daily, so they couldn't do anything outside of that budget. And it was really to limit their movement, because if I need $2.50 for the bus in the morning, $10 for lunch, and then $2.50 to get home, that's all I have. I can't, it's nothing else I can do. So some of these things are that kind of control, and domestic, intimate partner, and family violence is about power and control. It's not about love. It's not about care and concern. This is what they say.
Right.
Out of love. It's because I care. I know you don't know how to budget, so that's why I'm just giving you $20 a day to get what you need. And it's like, well, what if I want a gourmet lunch? I don't know. What if I want something? What if I wanted to, not catch the subway home, but catch a cab? Whatever it is, because I only have $20, I don't have the freedom to choose. So some of the abuse can be like that. You don't have the freedom to choose what is best for you at any given time, because you have the constraints. Remember, it's about power and control. Here's a question from the audience. Do you think social media has heightened the levels of abuse in our culture?
I would say yes, based on the calls that I used to get from victims. That was one of the things. So and so got my phone. They saw that I was on social media talking to so and so. Why was I talking to so and so? Why are they friends on Facebook with me?
Mm,
Why are they on Twitter? Why are we talking back and forth? So I think it has definitely heightened those who I would call batterers, because they look for those things. So if it's power and control, you can't have a Facebook page. You
Right.
can't have Twitter. You can't have what is the other one? Anything that's not
Instagram.
within their reach. And
yeah.
if they are, then they're stalking your phone. They're stalking your Facebook page. They're doing those.
Yes.
I think social media definitely heightened it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about this more in terms of bullying as well, but
Mhm.
when we were younger, there was no social media, and if you got bullied at school, at least you could come home and have a respite. You don't have that opportunity now if you're a kid growing up today. So
Right.
it's just the whole cycle of abuse can even start with the social media. Why she like your picture? Why is she liking all your pictures, etc.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, because that does happen, and we hear a lot of this in couples counseling, where people have done their due diligence and research of people's social media and have investigated in their own way and come up with, these things are happening in the relationship. So, and so it can instigate a fight, or instigate an argument or a disagreement. So, because I found these things on social media, this is how I'm going to respond. So it does heighten it, and but it's again another form of manipulation, because then you can say, well, you can't have Facebook, you can't. Well, I keep it to stay in touch with my family and friends. Well, they know your number. It really could go down to those kinds of levels, and this really goes to our next question, which are some of the red flags. What are some of the red flags? I think we covered a lot of them,
Yes,
but are there any other red flags that we might have missed, or you might want to bring up?
I think not honoring boundaries. I mean, a lot of what we already talked about goes under that, but when you establish firm boundaries and people just blow past those continuously, that's a red flag right there. They're not letting you have your own agency to make your own decisions and honor you.
and if anything is making you feel uncomfortable, think about that. If it's making you uncomfortable, why is it making you uncomfortable? If somebody is quick tempered, if somebody is jealous all the time or suspicious, these
Mhm.
are red flags. They go up immediately. That's not making me feel too comfortable. Um, and I always say, arguing for no reason, just to argue. That's a red flag. Red, yellow, green, whatever. They just have an argument for
It's a flag.
everything. It's a flag. So pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah. And some things, again, may we can dismiss. Well, that's just how they are. That's how they communicate. Or they can say, this is how I show love. This, the other people didn't care about you, or they would have, monitored your social media page, or made sure you stick to your budget, so you could only have $20 a day, or whatever it could be. It could be, and this is where the gaslighting comes in. It can be in the name of love,
Mhm.
that I'm doing this because I love you. And even as with older adults, we could say, well, I'm keeping your checkbook so your friends won't come over and get your money, or so you won't go down to Maryland Live and spend all your, your resources there. So I'm going to keep your debit card. And so it sounds like a good idea. They're trying to keep me out of trouble. But then if you feel like, wait a minute, I can use my own debit card. If I want to go to Maryland Live and I still pay my bills, I can do, you know, but if you're saying I can't because you know what's best for me, that's another red flag.
Yeah,
When people
know what's
say
best.
they know what's best for you more than you know, how do you know what's best for me more than what I know? So, but
Another
that's
red,
what they say.
another
Yeah.
red flag is burning up your phone. They're constantly calling you. You know, people call you 5 times in 5 minutes. It's a problem. What do you want?
Right.
And then if you don't answer, then what's the problem? Then you continue to call. And some people really don't understand that calling is those many times is a crime. You can be charged with telephone issues. But you miss it. Oh, they love me. They looking out for me. They're making sure I'm where I'm supposed to be or whatever. But they're burning up your phone. It's a problem.
I think it's also important to point out that the people we're talking about in these cases are people in their right mind. They have capacity. You may have a relative with dementia where you know that they're going to give all their money away if you give them all their money. And like you said, they might end up in Maryland Live for real and everything, or just
Yeah.
wander off for real. But those are people who don't have the capacity to make their own decisions and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's different. And that's a part of knowing the signs and knowing the people you're dealing with, that if they don't no longer have the capacity to take care of themselves. One of the comments from one of the viewers, this is their comment. I think it is important to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with your friends, that when you see these signs, go the extra mile by picking up the phone and make that call, or even do a quick drive-by. And, that's something that we can do if we see red flags in our family members and friends relationships. Now, we do know that sometimes this is what may happen. They're going to tell their partner, Jane came by, she was checking on me, she thought something was going on over here. So when we do check on some of our family and friends, they may in turn tell their partner, who then may again try to isolate them. So it is good to check on people and inquire, but even if you are on the phone with the person, their partner could be there and say, "What did they call for?" "Oh, they was just making sure I was good." Well, why wouldn't you be good? So it leads into a situation. So yes, we should be concerned and check on people, but again, it's about making sure they're safe. So we have to sometimes be creative in the ways we check on our family and friends, so that the person that may be manipulating or abusing them, that they're not in more harm's way, because that's when the beating could take place. "Oh, what are you saying about me?" Well, or anything else could happen.
Yeah, the person who has control does not want to lose that control. And if they start feeling anything threatening that control, they're gonna lash out. And that usually escalates things. So it's one of those things where if you're checking in, you have to be prepared that there might be a backlash. To the person that you're checking on might defend the person, probably is going to defend the person and everything, but still you have to do the right thing for your loved one and stay there, because fighting, if they are not isolated, if you're not isolated, that's probably the best way to fight gaslighting, because you have other people who you can reality test with and make sure what's what.
One of the questions from the audience is, what if you did tell a family member that you were being abused and afraid and trying to to get out of that situation. And they called the abuser to confirm and the information. And the family now believes that something that now the whole family's gaslighting you because they're like, something's wrong with you. This person said everything is okay. Nothing's going on in the home. What advice do you give to that person who did try to take care of their situation, but it wasn't taken seriously?
Definitely want to talk to professionals. Talk to Minister Vanilla here. Someone's going to be able to listen to you, and you have a right to assume that you're correct, and that's honored and accepted by someone.
Right, and there's always a hotline that you can talk to. You know, you have the national hotline for domestic violence, and right here in Maryland, we have the House of Ruth 24/7. You can always talk to somebody, day or night. So yeah, you can talk to other people and talk to professionals who can help you.
Yeah, that's always an answer. One of the questions that we received is, what about people from other cultures where it seems like there is a pattern of domestic violence in certain cultures, that this is how everyone is treated in these families or in these relationships, and it's been normalized. So the abuse has been normalized and passed from generation to generation, and in a community, because you'll hear this. Oh, this is how all our relationships are like this. You know, this isn't abnormal. This is a part of how it is for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. I think before we're a part of a culture, we're individuals, and I'm not sure what I mean, it could be really hard to escape that. Like if you know that you're gonna be if you report abuse, that you're gonna be shunned at your church, you might be shunned by your family, and all that could be really difficult. I'm not sure where you would go on that, but as an individual, like I said, if you feel like you're being abused and everything, you have a right to stand up and say this isn't right. And we're not in whatever culture we came from. We're here, and I mean, whether we're talking about like legal abuse, or we're talking about or just some of the stuff we're talking about, there's the rule of law still.
Yeah.
So
I know
there is help, though. There is help. If a person wants to get out, there is help. So if you have a friend, or if you're at work, there's somebody you can talk to, because it's your culture doesn't mean that that's something you want to stay in. So if you want help, there is help.
Yeah, and they are, you know, if people are from different religious backgrounds, there are specific organizations for the various religions that cater to domestic violence persons. So I know there's like an interfaith coalition in our area, in the DC metro area and Baltimore metro area, so that you can look up, if you're Jewish, you can look up Jewish domestic violence support or Muslim domestic violence support, or you can find groups that are particular to your culture, that your religious background, so that you can feel like you can go to someone and still be supported in your faith tradition. So that's even within the Christian context. We have organizations that cater to abuse. And because we do know, I know we're talking about domestic and family violence, but there's institutional violence. So that's at a whole nother level. And we don't talk about that enough. But some systems, perpetrate abuse and aren't a safe place. And so part of it is, making sure that you can find usually one person to share with. And that's the key, to get that one ally, that one person that's not going to judge you, that's not going to, shame you and, say things that aren't helpful. And then that'll give you the courage. The more you talk to that one person about it. I know I was at a luncheon a few years ago, and it was a domestic violence luncheon event. And so they asked people to stand up that had been, survivors of it. And so they stood up, and I saw people that I knew that I did not know previously were, involved as or victims and survivors of domestic violence. So a couple of the people that I saw, I said, I'm going to ask them if they would be people I could reach out to if someone needed to talk to someone that could relate. So sometimes, you have to be creative. We don't know. They're walking amongst us. They live with us. They're in our families and our friends. So, but that gave me the courage, of course I was saddened to realize that I've seen these people for years. I had no idea. And so look, I'm a professional and I didn't know the red flag. I mean, you can't tell because people hide it so well. And so if you don't know as a friend or family member, that's okay. We don't know. They're making sure they protect the person whose love or care that they don't want to lose. So I say all that to say, it's somebody, or we can be that ally. If we're a survivor, we can make sure we're available, make it known to other people on the job, hey, if so-and-so, if anybody comes to HR with this problem, let me know. I can, help them. So we can be that voice for persons that feel like they don't have a voice. So that's my, but we can help. It's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's because you could lose a friend because they'll be like, you're in my business, or your family might stop inviting you over. It's a risk to be an ally, but it could save someone's life.
When we talk about two vulnerable populations, non-English speaking, when we started talking about different cultures, that's one we didn't really mention, but think about someone who may not be documented and they're being abused, and they don't want to get into the system. They don't want to talk to somebody outside of it because they're scared that their status is going to be affected by that. So again, there's also organizations that provide support in those situations that aren't gonna turn you into ICE or anything like that.
Yeah, and these are real concerns, and I'm glad that the question came up. Now I need to follow up with the list of all the organizations, but part of it is, if you know someone that's in this situation, you can do the research, because again, if their phone is being monitored by their loved one, or don't have access to certain things, then you could be that person that supports them and gets them the information, because your browser isn't being tracked and traced like theirs might be. And it's so many different things that could deter people from trying to get help. And they don't want to call the Department of Aging on their grandchildren, but they might have to if they're not getting their needs met because the grandchildren or whoever are coming through,
Mhm.
you know, taking advantage of their aunt or uncle or grandparent. So it's different levels of it, and it's again bigger than that. What are some myths about domestic and intimate and family violence? Any myths out there?
The one myth is that it only happens to women,
Mhm.
and if they're the only ones who are victims, but it happens to every gender, every race, every ethnicity, every culture. So being poor is that's a myth. We have people, politicians, we have very educated men and women who fall victim. So it's just not, just the poor. Another myth would be, what happens here stays here. What happens,
Mhm.
you can't tell anybody it stays here. Nobody's going to believe you.
Mhm.
If that's a myth, tell it. Tell somebody because there is help out here for you. So there are two myths. Poor doesn't matter what ethnicity or financial area you're in. It can happen to anybody. Number two, whatever's going on that's hurting you, tell somebody.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I think there's a stereotype of people, like you see the guys on cops with the white t-shirts and everything that are beating their wives, and if anybody that doesn't fit that mold, oh, they can't be an abuser. And they're walking among us. The victims are walking among us, and the people who are abusing people are walking among us.
Yeah.
And another good myth is that people say, oh, so and so can't be an abuser, he's nice to me, or whatever. It's like that person can be a completely different person behind closed doors, and a lot of times the abuser can be really charming and everything, and can
Yeah.
has a lot of charisma and can be polite, etc. And that's how they draw people in. And I can't stress enough, like Ms. Vanilla said, um, it's so important to call it out, because they don't want to be identified. That's the worst thing that could happen to them. They don't want to be called out, because that limits their next victim.
That's right.
And it's not like somebody's mustache twirling, like I'm going to go find somebody to abuse or anything like that. But it is a cycle that for the abuser, they need help as well, and to recognize their problematic patterns, and to get out of that cycle of abuse.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, that the abusers need help as well. And so, and there are programs to help persons that abuse their loved ones. And we just have to, again, let people know that healing is possible. I mean, you could continue in a relationship if you learn healthy ways to deal with anger and learn to overcome trust issues or whatever things, because we know a lot of it is learned behaviors that was in the home or acceptable in the culture, the whole everybody in my family, everybody in my neighborhood, this is how all the relationships have been. And so some of it we have to unlearn unhealthy behaviors. And what we've done is we've kind of glorified them, and accepted the unacceptable.
All right.
And whether we hide behind our titles and positions of authority, and then sometimes we hide behind our financial status and ability to provide. So those are some of the ways that we hide in plain sight, because we don't look like bad people, right? We're not the people, like you said, on the cop show is this getting arrested. And we've heard these sometimes public cases that hit the news, and we're like, wow, we didn't know that they were going through all of that. Also, another form of abuse that I didn't hear that people might not realize is a form of abuse is the when you are in a relationship with a serial adult
Cheater.
infidelity. So if you have if you're in a relationship and it's never been without someone else being involved, that becomes a form of emotional and mental abuse, because I'm not enough. If these people, if you always have to have somebody else, if I'm thinking this is the last time, and then here you go, it's somebody else again. So these things can be emotionally draining and cause, the person that is uh, trying to overcome this challenge to feel less than. So that's how that becomes abusive. So some of the emotional abuse involves us bringing other people in, like the whole family turned against this person that said, my mate is abusing me, and now everybody's on the abuser side. And so again, this is a part of it. Someone asks, here's a question: are most abusers narcissists?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't. If there's a circle, they're not all narcissists. Basically, a lot of them are, but I don't think that's a prerequisite.
Yeah, right. But I could see how you could think, because we know narcissism is, it's all about me, it's all about me. But remember, abuse is about power and control. It's always about power and control. Even the person that has all these multiple relationships outside of their primary relationship, it's about power and control, or some need in them that again affects the person that they're in a relationship with, because they continue to bring in other partners, one after, basically, I'm saying one after another, but you all can imagine that some people, how you would feel if your spouse had somebody on the side like for 25 years or something, or different people for 25. It'd be like, that's a hit to your, how you feel about yourself, your esteem, your value, your worth as a person. So that's why that falls under emotional abuse, because it can do something to you as a person. So what ways can we support our community, our family and friends out there? We're going to end with that. How can we support them?
I think one way we can support them is, first of all, not judge them. Second of all, we can Google anything, but you can give them information. Let them know that, hey, I'm here to support you.
Mhm.
Give them phone numbers, tell them how to safety plan. If something should happen, this is what I need, this is what you should do. These are the things that you need to gather. So be there for the person, just give them information. Don't try to push them or judge them, just try to help them.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is just to support their decision. Again, we kept talking about agency and everything, and this is somebody whose agency is going to be down at the nature of the abuse and everything. So supporting their decision is in itself, it's a helpful act.
Yeah, and also realize that sometimes the decision to leave and is the most dangerous time for our family and loved ones that might be going through this and friends. So that's why the safety plan has to be
Mhm.
taken seriously. And that's why professional help is sometimes needed in this area, because you want to make sure that they are safe. And if they plan to exit the situation, that safety is our main concern. And that's above all is the safety of everybody involved, because if it's a family trying to exit, you got to make sure everybody in that family is getting out safe from that, uh, out of harm's way. And then if it's an individual, we need to make sure that they have a stable place. So part of what you can do as a support system, I know people don't always want to do this, is you be that safe place that they can come to. But you'll say, well, they know their partner knows where I live, so I don't want them, stalking at my house and causing confusion, which is a possibility. So you do have to make sure wherever the person goes is safe and away from putting others in harm's way, that their partner might track down, or family member. So this could happen with the elders. If the cousin tries to come get Uncle Joe, the other cousin tries to, it could be a family feud. Well, no, you can't take him because I'm responsible. And then you'll hear like, okay, well, who's taking Uncle Joe? Or where are you taking him? Is he going to be safe?
Right.
So no matter who it is, it's the safety of that person. So we want to be there for them, but we want to support them, listen to them, but most importantly, they have to be safe. And that's what, whatever support we give, we want to make sure they're safe. And that's my final word is be there, but make sure whatever help you give is safe. So any more questions from the audience? I'm going to go overtime just for a couple minutes if you have one question. But if you do need further support, don't forget you can call us at the Renaissance Center, 410-409-0025, or reach out to renaissancecenter.org for more information. But we are here to support you, and have that non-judgmental listening ear, to help you decide what you need to do for yourself or how to support a loved one. This is all of us are in this together.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that our community is safe and goes forward, in a loving relationships and family dynamics. We want our families to heal, and this is a part of it. So thanks for joining us this evening. I thank my guests, Vanilla Jackson and Chris Moore, for giving us their time this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.